Yo, what is going on, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to a brand new and updated Rikka Sun Avalon deck profile post Magnificent Mavens. I have been in the process of trying to update some of my previously played decks as we enter this new super fun and exciting format. Just updated Marincess. If you guys want to see that list, pure Marincess, check that out. But we are moving on to Rikka Sun Avalon, which I have made some slight changes to as we head into the new format. And I have a full main, extra, and side deck for you guys today, and I'll be doing some test hands later on in the video as well, so be on the lookout for those. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and hop right into the profile. But quick reminder, guys, check out Imperium Duelist at the link below. That's where I've got these sleeves from on my main and side deck. And they sell all sorts of other amazing TCG accessories like binders, deck boxes, dice, mats, and more. So check them out. And don't forget to use my discount code WINTERKILLS10 off at checkout to save 10% off your entire order and support the channel in the process. And same thing can be said about using my TCG Player affiliate link, which you'll find in the description below as well. So hopping into the deck profile here, we have our standard 3 copies of Petal, which is normally great follow-up on top of being a searcher slash sender. That is assuming that Medora and Keldo doesn't eat this card alive and shuffle it back into your deck, so you better hope you mill at least 4 of them. So yeah, 3 Petal, not much has changed there, still a phenomenal card. 3 copies of Princess. This is a card I have slightly considered maybe dropping down to 2. But right now the third one is the 41st card, just because like this card sometimes seeing it in multiples can suck, yes. But also at the same time, it is an in-engine, searchable, easily accessible monster negate that sometimes is the difference between winning or losing, whether or not you have access to it. Not to mention, it is one of the best extenders within the entire archetype. Next up, we have 2 copies of Primula. This is a card that I have historically played at 1, and I was opting to play the World Carat Weight Champion over the second Primula. I have now moved to just 2 Primula for a couple of reasons. 1 Carat Weight does fall susceptible to Medora and Keldo, and it also loses 2 Bestial cards as well, whereas Primula does not, as it is solely an in-hand extender, and it's also a water monster. Next up, we have our 2 standard copies of Mudan the Rikka Fairy, our Rikka Spell and Trap Searcher. Wouldn't change this ratio either. And last but not least, we have 1 copy of Snowdrop the Rikka Fairy, which is a card I have considered going up to 2 copies. Haven't had a really good chance to test the 2 copies, but I think in theory 1 is really all you need. My biggest fear though is having this milled off of something like Keldo or a Kelbeck or a Guido, and having pretty much no way to get it back into the grave, except for when I try to grab it off Strenna, they're shuffling it back into the deck. So I don't know, maybe this is a card that's probably still good at 1. But I think, you know, definitely does have the potential maybe to be played at 2. Maybe alongside a third Mudan. But the, you know, the price you pay with increasing those cards count as they can brick, as those cards tend to do nothing on their own. Next up, we have 2 copies of Sunsea Genius Loci and 1 copy of Twin. I think you guys might have heard me express at the end of One Deck One Month I was perhaps considering cutting this card in the favor of the third Loci. Mainly because this seed combo does get hindered by Medora Keldo. We activate Twin, tarring the Loci and Grave, and they're shuffling it back into the deck alongside Sowing, which, you know, makes it easier for them to clear our Link monsters, and we lose out on a body, life point gain, and a search off of our Jasmine. But I figured it's probably still correct to play Twin, put them on Have Medora Keldo, and even if they are shuffling in something there, we still have other better things that they're not shuffling potentially later on in our combo, like Strenna when it hits the grave, or Princess, or Bangalancer, or Seed when it's brought off of Melius, you know, so we can still make Bangalancer, etc., etc. So, I don't know. For now, I'm going to continue to play the 1 Twin, and we'll see where it goes from there. Moving on, we have our Rikka Spells and Traps, and first and foremost, we have 3 copies of Con. This card is absolutely absurd, probably one of the most broken and unfair parts about this deck. It says, once per turn, if we would tribute a plant monster we control to activate a Rikka card or effect, we contribute any 1 face-up monster our opponent controls, even though we do not control it. So, basically, anytime we would activate Mudan, you know, Snowdrop, or any of our Rikka spells and traps like Glamour and Sheet, we can tribute off our opponent's monsters instead, and we're tributing them off as cost, which is also important when we keep in mind decks like Tier, that we're not triggering their effects, because again, they're hitting the graveyard in order to activate a card effect and not hitting the graveyard as the result of a card effect. So that's huge. And it's also important to note that since it's cost, they can't stop it. There's no way to stop costs from being paid in Yu-Gi-Oh! Even back when Red Reboot was still legal, our opponent could Red Reboot our sheet, but they were still losing a monster and half their life points, which I thought was just really hilarious. And I wanted to max out on this card again, just because I feel like the deck needs to see it as much as possible, especially when going second. It's just very oppressive. 3 Glamour, which is just better Rhoda. Why search 1 when you could search 2, especially if it's at the cost of one of our opponent's monsters. And lastly, we are playing 2 copies of Sheet. I was going to play 1 copy of Tranquility, but Sheet is just absolutely an insane card. We can just yeet one of our opponent's monsters off of their board and take another, and it feels really good if we're tributing off something like Baron, which, you know, would be able to negate it, but it's getting tributed as cost, so it has no say in what this card is going to do, and allows us to OTK a little bit easier too if we can have another one set in the back line. And I guess this also means if we're playing 2 Rikka trap cards, we technically have a higher chance of someday being able to attach a trap card to Hyperion, but it's probably still not going to happen. But yeah, the reason why I wanted to go to the double sheet is just because, again, it gives the deck a little bit better grind game, especially if you're only playing 2 Strenna. You might not have the opportunity to afford to grab a sheet back off of your second Strenna after you make the first one in your normal combo. So just being able to reset one off your Con and grab anything else out of grave is also just a nice option. And then moving forward, other sort of engine-related spell cards. Here we have our 3 Unexpected Die, of course, to summon the Sunseed Genius Loki out from the deck and do our seed combo. This is also just an OTK on its own into an open board, or a board with like at least 1 or 2 small monsters on it. We have our 1 Sunvine Sowing and our 1/1 for 1. This is right now a temporary replacement for Lone Fire Blossom. I'm playing this just because I am playing 41 cards. I don't want to brick on too many normal summons. You really can't afford to see multiple normal summons right now, especially going second into tier boards. And this is just like the next best thing, getting us access to Petal or getting us access to Loci. 2 copies of Triple T. I think like pretty much every deck should be playing 2 copies of this in its main deck right now. And then for our hand traps, we have 3 copies of Ash, 3 copies of DD Crow, 3 copies of Bell, and 3 copies of Imperm. So 12 hand traps in 41. Not bad odds there to see at least 2 or more. It's probably just slightly under 50%. I thought about playing maybe Skullmeister instead of Bell in here, but I have the Skullmeisters in the side for now. Now moving on to the extra deck, we have our 3 copies of Dryas, 1 Thrasher, and 1 Healer. Keep in mind, if you want Unexpected to Die to be a 1-card OTK, you need to be playing Thrasher in the extra deck. You cannot be playing 2 Healer, so important PSA there. 1 Dance Peon and 2 copies of Jasmine. Right now, Veiler, Imperm, and Mourner are all pretty decently popular cards. I guess outside of Tier, which is one deck that's kind of an exception that doesn't really play hand traps outside of its in-engine hand traps. But outside of Tier, a lot of other decks are probably going to be playing Veiler, Imperm, Mourner, and Jasmine is a prime target to get hit by those cards. And if you aren't playing 2, playing through those cards throughout your normal seed combo is going to be extremely difficult, and having a second copy is just very, very clutch to be able to, like, okay, they valored it on the life point gain search, I'll just link off and do another one and then tribute off the other monster that's, it's pointing to, grab my Petal, get my mood on, whatever it may be, and continue playing. So that's one of the main reasons I play 2. And then we have 1 Melius and 1 Bengalancer, standard for the Sun Avalon line, and then we have 2 copies of Strenna. And to go with that, we have our Teardrop, our Elsei, and our Hyperion. All pretty standard Xyz monsters as far as this deck is concerned. I know some people that were playing the Bestial monsters were playing the rank 6, which is definitely something you can do. But this deck plant locks itself so easily that like off of Petal or off a Snowdrop or off of the field spell, that I didn't really want to play the Bestial cards just because, like, if I play them, I want them to be live either my entire turn or as long as possible. And sometimes in this deck, you really just have to start by normal summoning Petal. And if they're resolving like an Orange Light, hitting it with a Kelback, or resolving a Havness and hitting a Kelback and other names, like, you just are locked out of using the Bestial, and at that point I'd rather just be a hand trap that I could use, like a Crow or a Bell or an Ash, instead of a Bestial card, which I'm probably going to be locked out of using, if that makes any sense. Now moving on to the side deck here, we have 2 copies of Skullmeister. This is to be able to side in against tier decks in case we're getting hit with like a Shizu cards, and we can side out other like engine cards like the 3rd Princess and the 2nd Primula. We have like more tier hate going 2nd, or even going 1st. Also having 2 Droll in the side. This is respect for Flunder. Flunder's a very, very insane deck, and I wanted this to be in here to be able to side in. So I can like take out Bell, at least 2 copies of Bell. 3 evenly matched. This probably should be Lightning Storm. It definitely should be Lightning Storm, but evenly is okay. 3 copies of Dark Ruler, again for more board breakers and going 2nd cards. And then going 1st cards, we have 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, a Call by the Grave, and a copy of a Pointer of the Red Lotus. Mainly evenly matched hate and other board breakers that would just completely annihilate our field. Evenly matched hurts this deck so much, so I wanted to kind of like max out on possible ways to beat it. 3 Judgment and a Pointer, and not to mention these just can say no to pretty much anything that our opponent might have as well, which is always nice. So yeah, that is it for the deck profile portion of the video. Now we're going to go ahead and do 2 or 3 test hands so you guys can get a basic rundown of how the list operates. All right, hopefully the deck has been shuffled thoroughly enough here after all being separated for the profile. Let's draw into our first hand here and see what we have to work with. So we have a copy of Princess, Petal, Ash Blossom, Primula, and a copy of Ghost Bell. So 2 hand traps, which is always nice to see, especially if we have to go 2nd. But we also have, you know, a decent amount of engine cards here. So I'm going to start this hand by normal summoning Petal. And then we're going to go ahead and activate Petal's effect here immediately after. Now, if they do have something like Orange Light, it's actually not the end of the world. I mean, Orange Light here would kind of hurt, I'm not going to lie. Although, what we could do is if they Orange Light this, we could Chain Princess, tributing the Petal, shuffling this back in. Petal could then search us another copy of Princess, and new Chain Resolve, since the monster we control is tributed, we can summon the Primula, summon the Princess, make Strenna, add back, and kind of just pass on that with 2 hand traps. So I guess that would be the play to make, or we could add Mudan as well, and then Primula tributes over, or well, Mudan tributes over the Primula, we get Con, get Sheet, and then on a board like that. So that's also technically a line we could do. We also get Glamour instead, maybe. So yeah. That's why I want to bring that up, because like Orange Light on Petal will just hurt a lot, a tremendous amount. But let's go ahead and activate this here, and let's go ahead and say they don't have something like Orange Light here to make our lives a little easier. We're going to go ahead and add Mudan, the Rikka Fairy. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and activate the effect of Mudan in hand, tributing off the Petal, and we can go Chainlink 1 Mudan, Chainlink 2 Primula, so we can chain block even further from another hand trap. And then we're going to go ahead and get access to Con. And then we can go ahead and activate Con here. And before we go any further, we'll use the Con effect to set directly from the deck. We can grab one of our 2 copies of Sheet. And then we can go ahead and activate Princess effect in hand, overlay these 2 into a copy of Strenna. And then we can use Strenna effect here to detach the Princess and add back the Princess to our hand. We can leave the Petal in the graveyard for the time being. I want to add the Princess back so they can't like prematurely force it out with Medora or a Keldo. And just like that, we end on one interruption here, technically 2 with Con, 3 with Princess, 4 and 5 with the 2 hand traps. And if the Strenna is tributed, it will turn into a Teardrop or a Hyperion, which is another interruption. So quite a bit of interrupts there through like not a lot of cards. Really, really nice. No access to the seed combo there, so our end board is a little bit weaker, but still a really, really strong end board nonetheless, and we do have really good follow-up in the form of Petal and Con next turn, generating us more advantage. So, of course, assuming the Petal is able to stay in the graveyard, depending on what our opponent is playing. So that's it for that test hand. Rather short, but still a really good end board, and probably a very tough end board for a deck like Sprite to beat, if I'm being totally honest. The tribute removal effect from things like Sheet and Con just makes it really hard for that deck to play, but Tier can be kind of another story, really, depending on how they open. So we're going to go ahead and reset the deck here and shuffle and see what our next hand looks like. All right, the deck has been shuffled. Let's see what our next hand is going to be. We have a copy of Ash, Bell, Petal, and Imperm. So, okay. Very similar hand, almost similar hand to last turn. But what we can do here, I mean, having 4 hand traps is always nice. I'm not going to complain about that. 4 hand traps plus a starter. Definitely not terrible. But we're going to start by normal summoning the Petal, and we'll activate the Petal effect. And we can go ahead and grab a copy of Mudon here, since we really don't have a choice else of what to grab. We'll activate Mudon by attributing the Petal, and then Mudon effect to go ahead and search a Rikka spell or trap. We're going to grab Con, activate Con, and here I'm probably just going to set the Glamour, activate the Glamour immediately, and we're going to go ahead and be able to search 2 since we are able to tribute. And we'll grab Princess and Primula. And then we're going to activate Primula on a new chain since a monster we control was tributed. And then we'll activate Princess in hand to special summon itself. And then we're going to go ahead and make a rank 4 for a copy of Strenna. And Strenna will detach here the Princess, and we can add back either Glamma or Mudon. I really wouldn't add back Petal here because it can come back in the end phase. But if you're really worried about Medora or Keldo, you could, I guess, add it back to have a guaranteed normal summon for next turn. But I'm just going to add back the Glamour so we have the opportunity to not only follow up in the form of a search, but the opportunity to be able to break our opponent's board a little bit if they don't clear the Con. Now, this is not just follow-up, but it's also removal. Same thing could technically be said about the Mudon, but if our board gets cleared and we don't have Con or the Strenna, the Mudon really doesn't do us anything too good, whereas the Glamour technically does. So we have 1 interruption, 2, 3, 4, technically 5 with the Con or the Strenna turning into something else. So not a bad end board there. Really short. We're not seeing any Sun Avalon stuff to do our full combo. But we're still ending on pretty capable end boards if you ask me. So let's go ahead and reset the deck one more time and do another test hand. Hopefully we can see a way to the seed line. Alright, so the deck has been shuffled, and let's draw into our last test hand here. We have a copy of Princess, Ash Blossom, Glamour, and DD Crow. Alright, so as weird and as awkward as this hand looks, we definitely have a good line here. So we're going to activate Princess in hand, special summoning it to the field, and then we're going to activate Glamour, tributing off the Princess to go ahead and search 2. Now we're going to go ahead and grab a copy of Petal and a copy of Loci. And this is probably one of my favorite plays to do. I really like doing the Sun Avalon line, you know, with the help of Snowdrop and Petal. Especially if we already have Princess in play too, because that means we can kind of play around some hand traps. So we're going to normal summon Petal, and we're going to activate the effect. And we're going to go ahead and search out a copy of Snowdrop. And Snowdrop's important here because now we can use it to get Loci on the field, since it can bring out itself and any other plant in our hand. So we'll tribute this, special summon it out, and bring out the Loci. And then we're going to go ahead and link 1 into Dryas, and we're pretty much off to the races here. We're going to activate Dryas effect to go ahead and search a Sunvine spell or trap. And we're going to add Sowing. We're going to activate Sowing. And since we control a Sun Avalon Link monster, we can summon out Sunseed Twin. Doesn't have to be just the vanilla. And now we're going to take 1,000 damage at resolution of Sowing, which is going to trigger the effect of Dryas, but we're also going to trigger the effect of Twin here since we control a Sun Avalon Link. So we're going to go Chain Link 1 Twin, targeting Loci engraved to bring back, and we're going to do Chain Link 1 Twin specifically so we can chain block from Bell, and Chain Link 2 Dryas. So we're going to gain back the 1,000 damage we just took, and summon a Sunvine monster from the extra deck. We're going to summon out our Thrasher here. Or if you're playing to healer, you could summon a healer, obviously. And then we're going to resolve our Twin, bringing out the Loci. And again, here you could see how kind of maybe like a Medora or a Kelda would hurt, because we wouldn't get this onto the board. And we wouldn't be able to do the play where we, you know, make a Dryas and then a healer, because we don't have a vanilla monster to gain life points, and we don't get that additional search. But, you know, hopefully if we're going first here, they don't have something like that. If they have Havness, we have at least a Ash Blossom to stop it, prevent them from getting to their Ishizu cards. So now we're going to go ahead and link into Jasmine, and then we're going to link our Twin off first, importantly, into Dryas, and then link off the Twin secondly into Healer, because Healer specifically takes a vanilla monster, 1 plant normal monster, And when this card is summoned, it has to target one other Sun Avalon Link monster on the field, and then we gain life points equal to its link rating times 300. So we're going to target Dryas, and we'll gain 300 life points. That will trigger Jasmine, and we'll get a search, and hopefully it's time in the round as well. But all joking aside, we're going to use Jasmine here to search any plant. And I'm going to go ahead and, you know, we could grab Primula here, which I think that's what I'm going to do, because that'll allow me to at least keep a princess in hand in case the one in grave gets shuffled back early by something like a Medora or a Keldo. And this is just another level 4 body we can get on field, you know, just by resolving Jasmine here in just a second by tributing. We don't have to burn the princess because we already actually used princess in hand effect. So now we're going to use Jasmine. Like I said, we're going to summon out the Mudan, and we're going to chain link 1 Mudan, chain link 2 Primula, and we're going to go ahead and search out our field spell since that is like the piece of the puzzle we don't have yet. And now we're going to go ahead and use Snowdrop targeting Primula, and we're going to make all of our plant monsters on the field that have a level 4, and we're going to go ahead and overlay into a copy of Strenna. And then we're going to activate Strenna here, detaching these the Mudan. And we can go ahead and add back any plant or Rikka card in our graveyard. So now that we're trying to resolve Strenna, what we add back here kind of matters, honestly, really depending on what game it is. If it is game 2 or 3, we're pretty worried about evenly matched if we're going first, because if we go for the full end board, Hyperiton, Strenna, Bangalancer, Sheet, Con, right? If we go for the whole 9 yards and we get hit with an evenly match, we're going to lose outright because we're going to be left with a Strenna and 1 princess, which is basically 2 interruptions, but our follow-up is basically nothing because we lose our Bangalancer, we lose Sheet, we lose Con, we lose all of our Strennas, right? We have a very hard time at grinding from that point on. While it's still definitely a winnable game, depending on how they open, we're just in a very, very worse off position. So game 1, I would typically, you know, vouch for adding back the Mudan here so we can summon Mudan in hand by tributing the Strenna, thus triggering its effect, since we have not used Mudan's in hand effect. And then we would make a second Strenna. But the problem here is that we've already used Princess's in hand effect to summon herself. So we cannot get another level 4 body on field at this point without going for like a dance peon line, which I'd really rather not do right now because that's just committing unnecessary resources. So we don't have another way to make another rank 4 right now, at least that I can see right now. So we're not going to add back the Mudan. I'm going to play it a little bit safer here and add back the Glamour for, again, reasons I explained earlier. It can be a, you know, a bit of follow-up and kind of removal of Con survives. But even if nothing else, it's still follow-up, whereas Mudan, again, might not be. But from here, we have the option to just link these into a Bangalancer. And we can just save ourselves the Melius in our extra deck for later on if we need to. And then we can activate Con here and set Sheet. And just like that, we have our follow-up with Glamour and Petal. We also have a monster negate in the form of Princess, which will trigger the Strenna, and that'll tag into Hyperiton. And we also have Sheet, which is going to be basically tribute to, right? Well, we tribute a monster they control and take another one with the help of Con. And we have the bounce in the form of Bangalancer. Plus we have Crow and Ash in our hand. Pretty decent end board there. Could have been better, but the way we had to start that board, we couldn't get access to another rank 4. But if we did, we would have ended with Hyperiton with a spell underneath it. And another Strenna on field. So like we would have ended on like a much bigger end board there had we had another way to get like another level 4 on field. But we did not have a way to do that, which is fine. I honestly like prefer ending on the more conservative boards because I feel like a lot of times they are just enough to beat whatever deck you're playing, even if it's tier or sprite. And it just leaves you with better follow-up in case it isn't, which is just like bar none more important, I think, at the end of the day. But yeah, that is going to do it for this video, and that's going to conclude the test hand portion of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys like seeing test hands in the same video as deck profiles. The videos might be a little bit longer, but at least you guys get like a more complete picture of the deck and how it's supposed to work and not just the cards in it. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all the love and support. It means the world to me. I hope you guys are having a great day, and as always, Winter Kill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And like always, a big thank you goes to our Divine Level channel members who are Pony Start, Cadillacs84, Justino, HCH Cyber, and Misfit. Thank you guys so much for your very kind and extremely generous support of this channel.